Hi, everybody. It's Chris with the Cloverdale Transit Authority, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things I'm doing on what is potentially the smallest O gauge layout in the world. You always hear people talk about, oh, this is the largest O gauge layout. Well, I've got the smallest one. And if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you've seen it. You saw it as we originally built it out as our Christmas village, and then I continued to keep the track on there so I could test trains and run them and so forth. But it's essentially a 40-inch round oak table, beautiful table, and 40-inch round table will fit a perfect circle of 036 fast track, Lionel fast track. And I had a post-war 1033 transformer hooked to that, and that's what I've been running, and you see these on my channel and Instagram and TikTok and so forth. But so I wanted to do something a little different and just kind of add some other dimension to very limited space. I just had a big pile of train magazines and train and model railroading books on there. So I took all that stuff off of there, and I said, I could probably put an elevated line on here. And of course, with my experience doing what I had done earlier in the year under the tree, I knew that in order to put a circle or oval inside 036, it needed to be 031. And at Christmas time, I ran an 031 MTH oval inside the 036 Lionel oval, and so that worked out great. So I thought, well, if I'm going to put a elevated track in here and use the little post-war pylons, the little plastic gray and black pylons, it was going to have to be 031. And I wanted on that, and I've seen, that they make the pylons for fast track and everything. But I thought, well, if it's going to be a raised track, it should just sort of look like a skeleton track, if you will call it that, where it's just you just see the tracks on the pylons. And the best way to do that was obviously with the standard tubular track, steel stuff that Lionel's been making forever. And so went out to Beltline Hobbies, who's a sponsor of the channel, and you guys have seen Kyle on here before, and he's just got this huge box of these pylons in different heights. So I got, I said, okay, well, I'm going to have a 031, and he had Lionel 031 tubular track that was new old stock, so stuff looks like it's brand new. And so I picked out enough for the circle, which is 8 pieces, and there needs to be one of these pylons at every place one of those tracks join. And so I said to Kyle, I says, I've been looking at this. How does this connect? He goes, well, the old way of connecting it is with these. There's 4 pieces and 2 screws for every pylon. There's 2 little long slotted pieces that go underneath the track, and these 2 little pinch pieces that go on top of the track, and then a screw goes in each one of them. And so I thought, oh, okay, cool. And he had all of these, and these little pins were all reproduction stampings, so they were all brand new, nice, and everything. So I got all that out and got that together, and then I also dumped all the pylons, because they were all old used pylons, into a bucket with soap, and I let them soak for a while and then rinse them off, so they were pretty clean. But then, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm using still photos that I took during this process because I just couldn't have the camera and try to get in there, because it was a chore. It took about 2 hours to connect all of these pylons to this circle of track. And as it was tough to get that tubular track together. I had to kind of spread them apart, push them together, and wore gloves because my hands were getting cut up. So anyway, but yeah, so you've got these little slotted pieces, and the problem is that they set so low in the little slot on top of the pylon that if you put the pinch piece on top, the screw isn't long enough to kind of make connection and draw it together. So after fiddling around with that for a while, I finally figured out that I had to get a little tiny screwdriver and use it as a shim underneath that little pylon plate, that's what we'll call it, to raise it up and then get that pinch plate on top and try to get the screw in. And so I was using, screwdrivers. I was using little needle nose forceps and just all kinds of tools. And of course, everything was magnetic, which was great up to a point. But then when I would go to move it away, after I perfectly line everything up so I could get that screw in there, it would kind of pull stuff away out of place, and then I have to put it back into place. So it was really frustrating, and you can imagine. So there was 16 of these, 8 different joiners and 16, so 2 per pylon, and it took 2 hours to do this whole thing. And once I kind of got a system, it was a little better, but sometimes you just couldn't get that screw lined up in there enough to make connection with that lower plate and pinch them together. But oh my God, I finally did it. And it's like, I will never take this apart. I will never add on to it. I don't care. And then the next part was having to hook the track power up to it with the little, the little clip-on power connector, and then also adding my KW transformer. Because now I'm running 2 trains. I'm running it on the lower fast track, 036, and then the 031 elevated track. So got that together, and that was, a little bit of a chore, but not too bad. But, it's great. It's really fun, and it's just tiny. It's very, very toy-like, but I really like it. And the plan is, at Christmas time, is to take that 40-inch table out of the solarium. We usually have the solarium decorated for Christmas. We had a Christmas village with the train last year, and we've got a little tree in there and candles in the window, and then there's uplighting. So, it kind of is a decoration as you look at the house. But so this year, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to get a 6-foot folding table, take that 40-inch table out of there at least during Christmas, put it in storage in one of the rooms in the basement, and then put a 6-foot folding table in there and put some of the pink insulating foam on top and paint that white and put the snow covering on it, and then have the circular elevated track at the one end closest to the window, and then have a larger oval track going around. Now we may have to reduce that oval from the 036, which I normally have here, to using the 031 that I had originally underneath the tree, because the widest I can find a folding table is 30 inches. So with the foam on top of it, that'll give us a little extra, but it's going to be running, pretty close to the edge of that, which I don't have a problem with. But so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Christmas coming and being able to do that, plus a couple, the stuff under the tree and everything. But anyway, so it's kind of cool. I thought I'd share how I went through and did this, especially with these bridge pylons, which are a pain in the behind. But yeah, so it's kind of cool, and I've been running different trains on it and enjoying it. So if you are looking to add another dimension to your track, possibly think of putting an elevated. Some of the other YouTubers, Ray's Trains, I saw he put an elevated track on it, his layout, and it really makes it look cool. And so that, Ray, that was kind of an inspiration for me to kind of put something elevated on this little miniature O gauge layout. So anyway, enjoy.